Okay, now the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce Beyza Nur Kılınc Arslan. She studies at Hacettepe University and in the Department of English Language and Literature. And she has an academic minor in German Studies, again from Hacettepe University. And her research interests are Western and German philosophy, magical realism, and children's literature. And the title of her paper is Entering the Rabbit Hole, a Psychoanalytic Interpretation of Carol's Dream Child in Wonderland. Okay. Yes, Beyza, the floor is yours. We're
Thank
listening to
you
you.
very much, Aytul Hocam, for introducing me, and thank you very much to PAU for this beautiful organization for introducing young academics into the career life in the early age. Thank you for this very much. And now I try to share screen. uh, this one. Here are the pictures moving? I use GIFs. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see the pictures.
Are they moving? By the way.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Now, till my time is very limited, I will read it properly. I will try to read it. My topic is about the Freudian interpretation of Carol's Dream Child in Wonderland, and I will start with my presentation now. Published in 1865, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is a novel challenging both the limits of reality and fiction, where the whole thing is a dream unrevealed till the end, as its author Lewis Carroll marks. Not only does the novel provide vast information about the education of little girls during the Victorian era, but it brings deep insight about the human consciousness. The journey motive and the encounters coined in the realms of dreams can be assumed as a reflection of the inner world of dream child Alice. She goes through the different phases of maturity, while her childhood perception and her blurred comprehension in emerging adulthood are portrayed symbolically. Seeing that the content of this fictionalized dream may construct an analogy with the real life and phases the child gets through, the dream world of Alice can be interpreted by applying Freudian theories. Such a stance approaches dreams as an inseparable part of figuring out the individual's mind. Thus, this study focuses on psychoanalytic criticism, comments on the formation of 5 psychosexual stages, and analyzes the Freudian means of human consciousness within Alice's adventures. To start with, for entering the hidden unconscious in Freudian dream analysis of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, the construction of the whole dream element has to be interpreted through symbols. Symbols make the dream analysis possible, actually. The first symbol, which appears before falling into the rabbit hole, is the daisy chain, for which Alice is too lazy for getting and picking those flowers up. Knowing that blossoms or flowers symbolize the female genitals or virginity, the beginning of the story foreshadows sexual formation and transition from childhood to maturity. Also, it can be recorded that the dreams seen in young age show the characteristics of later dreams, that of adulthood. And since the individual have to be satisfied, the scene's content of these dreams are shaped by emotions, egoistic desires, enabling individuals seeking for power. Therefore, Alice, following the rabbit with pink eyes, which holds a pocket watch, signifies passion and impulse by marking the passing of time or indicating later periods of life. Though the rabbit disappears from her sight, she continues her concerns about time. However, Alice falls into the hole which never comes to an end. Down, down, down. This dark tunnel is unconsciousness comparable motive involving the journey of baby inside the mother's womb. Process and results of entering into the rabbit hole remind psychoanalytic criticism of Otto Rank, the student of Sigmund Freud, who describes his theory in Das Trauma der Geburt, the trauma in birth. Thus, the tunnel may signify the trauma which comes with birth. For Otto Rank, all the individuals experience a harsh separation which results in lasting anxiety, existential and ontological crisis, as in the case of Alice. It brings confusion to individuals' minds. Thus, this plunging into an unfamiliar world starts as a motive in the form of a hallucinatory experience, and it can be interpreted as a route into the reflection of consciousness, an experience which brings anxiety. Not even able to answer if the cats eat bats or bats eat cats, she is covered in darkness of uncertainty in later stages of her development. Furthermore, the psychosexual motives multiply when Alice lands, so mysterious house filled with doors and their locks greet her. Related to these symbols, Freud states that one may ask, do I really live in the midst of sex symbols? He explains these symbols in unconscious comes from quite variable sources, from jokes, farces, myths, fairy tales, and folkloric stories involving customs, sayings, songs, from both poetic and vulgar language. Therefore, it is not wrong to say that this kind of structuralism in language is in parallel with symbols within a dream, and that makes the Freudian interpretations reliable. Opposing with this statement, some critics like Anthony Goldschmidt in his Alice in Wonderland Psychoanalyze draws attention to psychosexual symbolism, and the rabbit hole for him indicates Carol's repressed sexuality, while other critics connote these references as celebration of female form and sexuality. In fact, this theory would fail in Freudian means of interpretation, since it does not acknowledge the theories of child development, which is called metapsychology. However, coming back to Alice after the falling and the psychosexual symbolism, for Freud, many domestic items this time represent the womb of mother and not the female genital. To illustrate, the wardrobes, stoves, etc. Among all of these is the room symbolism the fundamental one, since room is a safe place like the mother's womb. Entrances and exits of the room take on the meaning of the body openings. Whether the room is open or closed is a part of this symbolism, and the key that opens it is normally an unmistakable male symbol. Alice sees the entrances, doors, keyholes portraying the genital opening, an imagery capable of being filled with something. But Alice seeks escape from the domestic sphere, the restrictions of caretakers, which are the parents. Who are the parents? But the time has not come yet. She is not ripe enough, but limited. All the doors are locked. Alice has to grow to reach the key and open the door. Moreover, for psychoanalysis, impossible things in a child's dream is a reaction to an experience of the day, which has left regret, a longing, unfulfilled desire behind it, but they also represent fulfillments such as hunger, thirst, sexual desire, are wish fulfillments which are innate. Besides, they are the basic needs which have to be satisfied. Alice needs to nourish for purpose, to interact with the outside world freely. As Alice glances the beautifully drink me printed large letters, first, like an infant, she has a feeling of mistrust and gets suspicious if it might be a poison. Then, notwithstanding the letters, she ventures to taste it, expressing that it has a mixed flavor of cherry tart, custard, pineapple, roast turkey, resembling to fantastically described mixture for breast milk of the mother. Indeed, it is the oral stage in which the libido is centered in mouth. In this first stage of psychosexual development, sexual desires are fulfilled through sucking and swallowing during consumption. But in a way, Alice has problems in eating and drinking, maybe as a result of oral fixation or lack of fulfilled desires. After the oral stage comes the anal stage. After the liquid nourishment, now Alice's eyes fall on the very small cake she can eat. Eat me were beautifully marked in currants. Well, I will eat it, said Alice. And if it makes me grow larger, I can reach the key, and if it makes me grow smaller, I can creep under the door, so either way I will get into the garden, and I don't care which happens. For correct interpretation of this passage, maybe the second phase of the psychosexual stage can be taken into consideration. The phrase "eat me" is written over the very small slice of cake. Alice can be considered being in the anal stage or the second stage, since the awareness of her wish contacting the outside world and knowing that her demands can bring her into conflict mass, that is, either she will grow large or small. She has to control the amount of the cake she is going to eat. So do the babies during the anal stage while controlling bladder and bowel movement. Seeing that the little cake is hidden in the glass box, Alice is stubborn and tight-fisted about positions, which is a characteristic of this stage too. Also, the drive conflict model of Freud can be applied to the cake-eating part, based on innate raw power of both sensual and sexual pleasures. In this model, all the individuals have urgent needs to be taken care of the it, the animal nature of the human, which is combined with the energy of libido, the driving force behind the behaviors. Certainly, it is known that psychoanalysis cares only about uncovering the true self and identity, but Alice severely lacks the necessities of self-identification. Disturbed with dysmorphic appearances after eating a slice of cake, Alice grows big and is fond of pretending to be two people, like a child. The strict Victorian education does Alice not unable to distinguish if she is in Australia or New Zealand. Indeed, she is lost, and few things happen to her, which are traumatic and really impossible in reality. Alice tries to apply the methods she acquired during the lessons in the schoolroom, but all end in vain. In fact, it is of no use. Everything is queer, and she is so confused about her nature of self that she cries a pool of tears. After this event, when she drinks the beverage, and she no more cries but regrets, I do wish I hadn't drunk quite much. Indeed, unconsciousness needs punishment, in Freudian means. And it is Alice who feels self-tormented and self-sabotage, in which a sense of guilt is created. For Alice represents the capacity for concern and depressive identity. Although she acted the same when she overconsumed the cake, her reaction changes and she recognizes that it is too late to wish that. In other words, she gets used to some misfortunes and gathers a slight sense of virtue, while her curiosity of a child causes her always new lessons to learn. Now Alice can continue her journey in the phallic state. So when she grows, she is not the same. But who in the world is she? That is a great puzzle. She feels different, curious, asking herself the same questions again and again. But at the end, she concludes, no, I have made up my mind about it. If I am Mabel, I will stay down here. By the way, Mabel is an English female given name, derived from the Latin amabilis, lovable dear. It is the significant part is that is female and represents the female. Since Alice assumes that she might be Mabel, and knowing that libido is on the genital during the phallic stage, she recognizes her sexual identity, discovers the differences of both females and males. It comes with the latent stage, where Alice develops social relationships, communication skills, values. Soon discovering the environment, Alice gets acquaintance with Eaglet, Dodo, and Mouse. This is only a representative. I couldn't find an appropriate picture. However, they start to play a game called Carcass Race, and surprisingly, everyone wins. That means Alice is equally equipped like her friends. They are at the same time same developmental stage, indicating that Alice may contact with her peers. Ego and superego contribute, Alice tries to act calm, only looking anxiously. Alice witnesses the crab giving advice to her daughter for never losing her temper, acknowledges she has to hold her tongue, for even the words may create fear on others. To illustrate, Alice should have said that Dinah is her cat eating all the birds it sees. A kind of empathy, superego, providing the moral standards can be seen in latency stage. She still continues to learn lessons growing up. In addition, the problem of identification occurs as an output of conversation between Alice and the caterpillar. Repeatedly it asks, "Who are you?" Now, not able to answer this question and seeing that the caterpillar is an animal of metamorphosis, it represents the transition from one phase to another. Besides, he cannot understand and empathize with Alice. He definitely represents a more mature image and later development of Alice, and has a role on her self-confidence. Asking who she is, in her latency stage, Alice tries to develop self-confidence and wants to be recognized by others. In short, she knows that she speaks with the caterpillar, but he does not know that she speaks to Alice. Apart from caterpillar, another significant and interesting symbolic appearance in Alice's adventures is the passive king and the all-time threatening queen. According to Freud, parents are highly respected, dominating on lives of individuals. So they reveal in dreams as imperial and royal persons, written in capitalized letters. The king and the queen of course represent the authority of power occupying the consciousness of Alice. Even in fairy tales, it would not be wrong to state once upon a time there was a father and mother instead of there was a king and a queen. Thus, in this case, dreams are a reflection of the mindset of Alice, and she remains in the latent stage of psychological development for not settling down in a loving one-to-one relationship, different from the caretakers. She cannot reach the genital stage. To conclude, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is not simply about a little child who embarks a journey and comes across various fantastical non-human creatures and puzzling images, but the interpretation of whole story with its hidden symbols hinting to psychosexual development is one of the major many focus points in psychoanalytic criticism by interpreting this novel. Alice is a stereotypical dream child representing the real developmental phases every child gets through. Yes, this is my works cited list. And thank you for listening. Do you have any questions? Said the Cheshire Cat.
Okay. Thank you, Beyza Nur. Thank you for this for your paper. I enjoyed it. And before I ask my question, I have a question actually. Müjdat wants to ask a question. Okay. Yes, Müjdat Bulmuş. We can have your question.
Hocam, actually, there was another one before me who raised the hands. Fadem Boyraz, or I couldn't really
Okay.
read.
Oh yes. Okay. Boyraz, we can have your question.
Hello, I'm Fadime Boyraz. Thank you for your kindness, by the way. First of all, I have no question. I want to say that I'm great to you, my dear friend, for sharing this explanatory, informative, and comprehensive presentation with us. By the way, I think Alice on the back please send my regards to her. Considering the point and the symbols you explained, Beyza, I came to a conclusion that I should read the book again. And once again, I'm proud to have a friend like you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you Fadime Boyraz. Thank you. Yes, Müjdat Bulmuş.
Okay, thank you, Aytu Hocam. And thank you, Beyza, for your presentation. It was really illuminating. And my question is, I mean, from your presentation, can we say that Carol actually created a fantasy world to reflect the early anxieties of a child, a girl, as she grows up and develops into a kind of individual?
Actually, I think it's about the unconsciousness of feminine figure. Since I could not answer this question, I focused on just on the work because it's so contrasting. Carol is a male person, and how can he explain the phases a female can get through actually? And therefore, I cannot answer this question because it's so complicated. But if you do not take the gender in on foreground, as it was written in the Victorian era, I mean, not of today, because we have now blurred lines today. If we do not take this gender, we can say that every child gets through these phases, and it's not by coincidence that because the public stage which is described is in parallel with Carol's work, and I think it's not a coincidence.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Beyza Nur Kılınc wants to ask a question, I guess.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I guess my voice shaking. I'm so excited. Firstly, I really appreciate Beyza for this conservation, because this book is my literally childhood, and just like Gulliver's Travels, it's just more than surface, and I can see that the surface sense of sexuality in childhood of female. And you know, there's a character whose name is Queens of Hearts, and it's really, really frightful, and it's used to scares me a lot when I child. And you know, it's just a character who is just a card, and Alice was really scared of it. And can we say that that is just a taboo which is established by unconscious of Alice, which doesn't know anything about sexuality, or the pressure which is established by the society?
I think it's Carroll has written his novel in the Victorian period. I read research papers about it, and it is written that during the Victorian era, of course, Queen Victoria is on head, and Albert, together with him, they rule the country. But Victoria is the motherly figure, dominating in the domestic affairs and restrictive. The Victorian period is like that. And therefore, I think it's fearful because the Alice don't want to be restricted by this way. I think it's a reflection of the time, and it can be adopted in the future. Actually, we have such caretakers who restrict our lives and limit and make some prohibitions. I think. Was it enough? Thank you.
I thank you really much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nisanur. Maybe we can have one more question. If you don't have any other questions, I have one question. Okay, Beyza Nur, do you believe that the ego is under control in the novel? If you think symbolically, and if you take Alice as a representative figure, do you believe that ego is under the control? I mean,
not at first time. She cannot take her ego into control because she eats everything when she sees. But later on, we can see a character change in her because as she goes to, there's a scene, case scene of that of Queen of Hearts and the King of Hearts. And she sees the tarts on the table, the cakes, but she does not eat and gripe to these tarts and cakes. And therefore, I think it's balanced. And if when she was with her friends, the dodo and mouse, she does not respond back, but looking only anxiously to them.
All right.
I think therefore it's balanced.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I think our time is up, Mehmet Ali Hocam. Okay, thank you so much for for your paper, Beyza Nur. And I would like to thank the contributors, the listeners, Mehmet Ali Hocam. And I would like to especially thank you for giving me this opportunity to present Beyza Nur, my student.